Hello everyone. This is going to be an introductory video to this channel, which is going to be dedicated primarily to the MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and the reason why I decided to start this channel was because recently I've reached 1300 hours playing this game. Even though I've played it that much, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself an expert. Of course, I will be sharing with you some insights as well as some techniques and tactics, but also I would like to learn something from you as well. And I would like to use this video as an opportunity to show you my mech collection. Not to brag, but just to see how many mechs I gathered. Now, I used both the career mode and the campaign mode. Let's see what I've got in the campaign mode since I've played this one the longest. Here, I've been fighting for almost 300 years, or 296 to be more precise, since the year of 3015, and now it's 3311. Let's check out my mech collection. Now, do keep in mind that I use several mods with this game, and one of these mods allows me not to strip the mech of all of its weapons when it's being placed into the cold storage. So let's check out my cold storage. Ready? Let's go. Here I've got 46 annihilators, all variants. 1A, 1E, 1X, and 2As. Then I've got archers, and then even some assassins. Then I've got 136 atlases, all the variants. My favorite one is perhaps the AS7D. I have 60 of them. Then I've got 40 AS7Ks, and then I think 32 AS7RS, 4 AS7P, which is a melee variant, and then of course I also have all the hero variants. Then here I've got 46 awesomes. These are great. I have all the variants, except I don't have the HQ anymore because 9M is an upgrade of that version. Then I've also got banshees, 29 of them. I've got few melee variants, and then the rest of them are 3S variants, which is perhaps my favorite version. Scrolling down, here I've got 35 Battlemeisters, many different variants, of course. And then, oh boy, I've got a lot of Black Knights. I think I have all the variants. I don't even know how many I have because I never even bothered to count them. Then I have Blackjacks, a few Cataphracts, some Catapults, of course, Centurions, a bunch of Centurions, which is perhaps my favorite medium mech, which weighs 50 tons. I like actually two of them. I like the Hatchback and the Centurion when speaking of 50 tons. I have 16 9D variants, which is the latest variant, and then of course some of the older variants as well. Few champions, few chargers, Cicadas, Commandos, then Pirate Hero variant, then some crabs. Now, as far as Crusaders are concerned, I have every single variant. I have only one mech of every single variant. Then I have a few Cyclops and some Dervishes, Dragons, Enforcers, Fire Starters, then some Grasshoppers, some Griffons, Hatamoto Cheese, some Hatchetmen, Highlanders. I got 36 Highlanders, different variants, of course. Then, as I've mentioned, I do like the hatchback too. And I have some Jaeger mechs, light mechs, javelins, Geniers, and then the King Crab. I've got 74 King Crabs in total. I've got 33 variants, and then I've got 44 of 30B variants. I don't have a 40 variant because 40 is a downgrade of 3 zeros. Let's keep scrolling. So these are all my King Crabs. Then I've got some Kentaros. Kentaro is probably my favorite 55 tonner. Then of course I have some Locusts. And then I've got 16 Marauder 2. I've got 12 4As and then 4 5A variants. Then I've got some standard Marauders. I have a few 2Rs, 3Rs, and then of course I've got 21 5D variants, which is the latest variant. Then scrolling down, I have some Maulers. 1R is perhaps my favorite variant, provided you configure it properly. And then I've got 34 Night Stars. I salvaged most of this when fighting the Comstar, because I do have a mod which involves the Comstar as a faction that you can actually work for or fight against. So these are all my Night Stars. And of course I have some Orions, some Panthers, Phoenix Hawks. Then we have some Quick Draws, Ravens, Riflemen. Not even sure why I have so many of these, but I've got them just in case. Then some Shadowhawks, and then Stalkers. Yes, Stalkers. I have 69 Stalkers in total. I have 30 of the 3F variants, then I have 25 3FB variants, then 14 3H variants, and then of course the hero variant. Stalkers are also one of my favorite mechs. I like all the variants, except perhaps of the 4N, which is essentially a downgraded version of the 3F. Then of course I have a few Thunderbolts, Trebuchet. I even have 3 Urban Mechs. This is the Capellan version, I believe, with the AC-20 Breastfire. And then I've got some hero variants as well. And then of course I have few Victors, Vindicators. I even got a couple of Vulcans. And then I've got 39 Warhammers. Let's keep scrolling. I have 16 of the 6K variants, and then one 6L variant. Then I have 10 of the 6R variants, and finally 12 6RB variants, which I also happened to salvage from the Comstar. Some Wolfhounds, Wolverine, and then the Zeus. Alright, so this is my mech collection. Most of this I salvaged, and the reason why I've got so many of them is because typically I don't like selling mechs. I don't sell mechs unless I absolutely have to, because I believe that it's better to have a mech and not need it rather than need it and not have it. Alright, well, let's check out my equipment collection. Well, to begin with, all of my weapons are obviously 5-tier level weapons at this point. Now, as a side note, I'd like to mention here that if there is one aspect of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries game that I absolutely cannot stand, it's this stupid nonsense weapon tier level system. Meaning that every single weapon in the game, including melee weapons, comes in 5 different levels. And this is so annoying and tiresome. Oh my gosh, do I hate that. Because instead of spending time on the battlefield, they waste your time with having you to constantly clean up your inventory of all the junk, and also having you constantly refitting your mech with a better level weapons. So annoying, so annoying. Why don't they just keep every type of weapon at the same level, just like previous MechWarrior games, and call it a day? Instead of this nonsense, I'd rather have more variety in mission types. That's for sure. Anyways, so here are my ballistic weapons. As you can see, I've got several hundreds of some autocannons. Then here are my energy weapons, also over several hundreds of each. And then of course I've got all the missiles except for the LRM-5. I do not use LRM-5 because I find this weapon to be kinda useless. Doesn't do all that much damage. Instead I use SRM-4. Now, another thing which I don't quite understand about MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is that every single missile type comes in 2 different variants besides those useless tier levels. What this means is that it comes either in a standard variant, which shoots out all the missiles at once as a cluster, or in ST variant, meaning stream. It shoots out all missiles in stream, as opposed to shooting them out all at once. However, when you look up the specs in here, like let's say of LRM Standard and LRM Stream, which is one that I have in here, they will look absolutely identical. No difference on paper whatsoever. The only difference is the missile distribution. As you can see, I have all the missiles in stream in here. This is what I use. Just to keep it simple and to match, like, let's say, MechWarrior 2. I don't know why we need 2 of those variants in here. Kind of a waste of time as well. And then, of course, I've got a bunch of anti-missile systems. A bunch of ammunition here. Over 2400 double heat sinks. No shortage of double heat sinks whatsoever. Over 2700 single heat sinks. And I've sold a bunch of them too. I never purchased even a single one, it was just building up in here as a salvage. And of course I have all the melee weapons too. I don't have a lot of this, just because most of the time I prefer destroying enemy targets at longer ranges. Trying to get too close is just a way too dangerous. Finally, let's quickly check out my pilot roster. Here I've got 14 AI pilots in total, all of whom have reached their maximum level of 60. And also, what's interesting about this particular roster is that here I've got 7 male pilots and 7 female pilots. I guess you can call it as an equal employment opportunity. And just in case if you haven't noticed this by now, here I've got over 2 billion C-bills on my bank account. I wish I could buy a second dropship so that I could use more of my pilots and mechs on certain missions, instead of having to encounter rival mercenaries as friendlies, because honestly, those don't fight very well. You cannot give them any commands, and they will be constantly getting in your way, so for that matter, I much rather prefer encountering them as enemies rather than friendlies. Because frankly, the AI in this game leaves much to be desired. And oh boy, don't even get me started on this one. It's a shame that while this game was released something like 24 or 25 years later since the MechWarrior 2 was released, the AI in this game is no better. There, at least you could change the formation, and the lancemates in MechWarrior 2 never crossed your line of fire and never shot their alarms through friendly buildings which you were assigned to protect. Here, it's a complete disaster. Your lancemates here will be constantly dragging behind when you're walking towards the target while exposing you to enemy fire. However, when I'm standing still while trying to do some sniper shots at a distant target, they will be constantly stomping back and forth in front of me while crossing my line of fire. And if you accidentally happen to hit them, they will be yelling at you, saying that you should check your fire. This is absolutely unacceptable. I don't know what were they thinking when designing this game. Alright, thank you everyone for taking time to watch this video. I know it's kinda long, and as I've mentioned earlier, we'll be trying different things on this channel, different mech builds and configurations, as well as various tactics. I would also love to hear your ideas and suggestions, and I will try to reply as much as I can. It will be fun. Thanks again, and until the next time.